Winstrol, 20 milligrams a day, and shot a Deca 100 milligrams a week. That was my 10-year solution to drug intervention with Mr. Olympia as far as steroids. That was it.
The most I've ever taken, the most I would ever consider taking would be 100 milligrams a day.
What's up guys, Derek, moreplaysmartidiots.com. Today we are talking about Tom Platz and his hormone use, steroid use, anabolic androgenic steroid deployment to get fucking jacked, bro. He is somebody who has been fairly transparent about his use. Historically, he was actually one of the guys who was at the forefront of revealing what really goes into a pro physique. He did this multiple interview, I don't even know what you'd call it, but he basically sat down with a bunch of pro bodybuilders who were at the top of the sport back in the 90s and did an array of interviews. If you go to my channel and you type in Tom Platz, you can actually see Ronnie Coleman's steroid cycle, or somebody who is very, very similar sounding and looks a lot like Ronnie Coleman. Might or might not have been him. Here we see Lee Priest talking to Tom Platz as well. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, by the way, it's actually shocking how many people haven't seen this, but basically, and there was more than this too, like this was Aaron Baker. Basically, Tom Platz sat down with all the top bodybuilders, or a lot of them, and just literally grilled them for an hour about what they use. And they talked about dosages, compound selection, etc. Super interesting stuff if you're a pharmacology nerd like myself. And I literally reacted to each one live. So if you are a nerd and like to learn about this shit and also just see what the pros were admitting to taking and their dosages and whatnot, you can check it out. And this is like in their prime. You have, Olympia caliber guys in supposedly, some people say the 90s is like the unbeaten era of bodybuilding, arguable, but at the end of the day, these guys are pretty forthcoming about their use in this video because they think they're totally anonymous, when in reality, it's pretty fucking easy to tell who they are. Ronnie Coleman one's hilarious. But, are they lying or not? Are they still underplaying their use? Certainly possible. In this video, I actually summarized all the dosages and compounds in a more palatable format if you don't want to sit through, an hour-long video for each guy. Here we broke down multiple different people. Here I had Dorian Yates, go through him, Coleman, Lee Priest, Aaron Baker, Cormier. So some of these guys in there, super interesting stuff. At the end of the day, Tom Platz is one of the guys who was at the forefront of bringing transparency to the industry, and even in his heyday was pretty open to discussing it in a public forum. Like here he was on stage literally talking about his peak weekly dosage.
And abuse does exist. Abuse exists everywhere. As a maximum figure on steroids, I like to, if you really want to discuss figures, I would say that the most I've ever taken, the most I would ever consider taking would be 100 milligrams a day. Okay, 100 milligrams is based upon my body weight and the type of steroids I take. I believe in anabolic therapy and not androgenic therapy.
So interesting in this video, and I did this video February 21st, 2021. Time flies, bro. And he basically talks about his stance towards compound selection, also the maximum dosage that he uses and would use. And he basically says it's 100 milligrams a day, 700 a week, which is not very high for a guy who was otherwise trying to gun for the Olympia title. Even back then, looking at that video, you're like, wow, you are either a freak, which he obviously is a freak, but I mean, for somebody to have stopped at 700 per week when they were, thinking they're going to win the Olympia seems kind of far-fetched that they wouldn't try and push it a little bit further and maybe think, oh, could I not get more out of here? There's no internet or anything that you could reference as to figuring out if that was a safe or unsafe dose or what to even make of what you're taking. For all you know, what you're taking is not high enough compared to the guys you're competing against. Surely there would have been significant incentive for him to push the boundaries on that, and I'm sure he probably did. So did he just draw a line at what he thought would be reasonable to say, or is that actually what he did? It's who really knows at the end of the day. However, what I did find interesting and kind of sheds a bit more light on the probable accuracy of his statements is what he said apparently recently on his steroid use. And this is a clip that has been reacted to multiple times now in our industry, with some people believing him, being like, wow, this is a representative of how good the golden era was in genetics, and then some people calling bullshit.
Your solution to drug intervention with Mr. Olympia as far as steroids. That was it. But it wasn't about the drugs in the old days. It was about the reps and the mentality.
Okay, so here he says how much money he spent on gear for Olympia prep, and also highlights, something we all love to hear is how much the guys in the 70s, prioritize hard training and eating, and how everyone nowadays just sucks ass. It's kind of well, quick interruption for a note from our sponsor of today's video, Magic Spoon, one of the OGs, bro. This is the high protein, 13 to 14 grams of complete protein per serving, keto friendly, 0 gram sugar, gluten-free, grain-free, naturally sweetened with monk fruit, inulin, allulose. This is the go-to natural cereal that I've been eating for a minute now. You guys, OGs of the channel know this is like one of the first sponsors we've ever had, and I've been eating this stuff since, I don't know, like years. Fucking years. It's been years at this point. Some of this stuff, like the cinnamon roll, like find me something comparable that is like more than 10% better, but like 1,000 times shittier for you. Like there's really no comparison in my opinion, at least from what I've found, for protein content to taste ratio to quality. So I really like it personally. I think you guys might as well. They also have these protein bars now, which are great for on the go, that are lower calorie as well. 10 grams protein, 130 calories. And also notable, birthday cake, a staple new addition to their lineup. But this one is actually going to be featured as a special offer with a free box getting put into every single order today for a limited time. They didn't even tell me when the offer ends. So I would definitely give it a shot if you are otherwise interested or want to stock up and already eat this stuff, because I don't know how long it'll last. They are celebrating Magic Spoon's birthday, and to celebrate, they're offering a free box in any order. So all you have to do is use the special link in the video description below, magicspoon.com/DerekBday, to get a free box of birthday cake with your order. And like I said, for my Canadian and British viewers, they now ship to your respective locations, Canada and the UK, thank God. So no more driving to the P.O. box for me. Quite nice. So you can check it out, link in description below, help support me. Hopefully you guys like it as much as I do, and obviously much appreciated when you guys support companies that otherwise put their neck out for the channel and show them some love. So appreciate you guys, and back to our regularly scheduled programming. That is something you hear a lot of times. It's the guys in the golden era, coincidentally, who say that shit, and it sucks that a lot of people seem to corroborate this and really lean into it, when there are guys that I fucking guarantee you work as hard or harder than the guys in the golden era that compete now, that get such bad publicity and scrutiny from people just because, like, back then, the only times you'd see these guys are on stage with immaculate down lighting and like ready to fucking go, and grainy goddamn cameras that almost make you look better, versus with high res like cameras that otherwise aren't even representative of what you're seeing in real life too. Like there is a dramatic difference of being in person at a show versus watching on a video screen on some like shitty live stream. And people casting judgment on current day bodybuilders versus the 70s or whatever. And yes, there are some guys who show up not in shape, but I think there is just unfair scrutiny on many guys nowadays for not working hard and, not being in shape, when, guys in the 70s would show up with, soggy fucking glutes and get praised to high heavens and lie about their gear. But it is what it is. I'm not to say that that's the extreme and applicable for every single person. There are certainly lazy people now and lazy people back then. I think it was probably a lot of the same at the end of the day, and there was people lying about their gear then, just as there is people lying about their gear now. So anyways, Tom Platz, what do you fucking take, bro?
I spent, I think, $300 maybe max on each Olympia, drug-wise, that I entered.
$300 on each prep. That is probably the most cost-efficient and frugal cycle I've ever heard of.
I mean, Winstrol, 20 milligrams a day.
Okay, so Winstrol, 20 milligrams a day. So we're talking about 140 a week in total. Okay.
And shot a Deca 100 milligrams a week. That was my 10-year solution to drug intervention.
Yeah, 100 milligrams a week of Deca. Plus Winstrol at 20 milligrams a day. Does anyone believe that? No. Well, some people might, for sure. Let's see the comments, actually. That's why Tom's still kicking it. He didn't destroy himself with steroids. I respect OG Platz for being open about some of the drug use. The only reason Tom didn't use more steroids was because the needles kept breaking. Dead face. Platz didn't need steroids. The steroids needed him. Fun fact, $300 when Tom was active is about $1,500 a day when adjusted for inflation. Yeah, so I'm sure he wasn't, the most abusive guy on stage. I'm sure he probably had, I don't know how reasonable his dosages were, but the fact that there's such a large discrepancy between what he said before, he is basically saying now, like if you divide it out, let's just say you took his 1 shot a week of Deca and you divide it by 7, we have 14 milligrams a day, plus his 20 of Winstrol. Like we are looking at a total dosage of 34 milligrams a day of gear versus at his peak, when he is not like totally comfortable, seemingly, like on the stage. I don't know if he was nervous or what, or he was trying to be somewhat reserved about how he answered questions, but he was being transparent, but also like careful about his answers. And even when he was careful in the heyday, when he was actually using the shit, and like you can see, this is literally like bodybuilder Tom Platz decades ago answering questions when he's fresh in his mind about what he's taking, he is at 700 a week versus here he is talking about 34 a day, getting up to a grand total dosage of 240 milligrams a week. It's it's just hard to believe realistically. So again, he talked about at his peak he would be at 700 a week. So is it standard that he did 225 or whatever a week and he just experimented with that once and then never needed to go do it again? Or do these guys just not even know how to count? Like sometimes you hear guys who take a shot and they're like, I don't even know how much it is. I just shoot a 4cc or some shit. And it's like they're talking about some number that doesn't even make sense on the syringe because they don't know how to measure. They just literally like draw something and pin it, or their coach tells them to take something and they just pin it. They don't even know what they're taking half the time. So is it reasonable to think that Tom is misremembering, or is it reasonable that he's intentionally lying and misleading to downplay his hormone usage and really highlight the hard work and the fucking training intensity and whatnot?
With Mr. Olympia, as far as steroids. That was it. But it wasn't about the drugs in the old days. It was about the reps and the mentality.
It wasn't about the drugs. It was about the reps and the mentality. I fucking promise you, you wouldn't have looked anything like this without the drugs. So at the end of the day, the Mr. Olympia was about the drugs. Like, let's be fucking honest. In the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, there is no Mr. Olympia caliber physique without the drugs. So let's stop saying it's the icing on the cake. It is the fucking cake. And part of the components to make the cake are the food and the training and the whatever. But like the cake is like literally supported by the drugs. Without the drugs, the cake just fucking falls apart and it's just a bunch of flour and sugar and shit. So like, let's be fucking honest here. You're not gaining the extra 50 pounds above your genetic base, like ceiling, without the drugs. So at the end of the day, I think a lot of these guys really like to highlight how hard they work when the reality is they're genetically superior. They diet extremely hard. They take their drugs and they work hard. Tom Platz is one of the hardest workers in the room. The guy was a fucking psycho. But there's no way he only used, like 230 milligrams a week to be competing for the Mr. Olympia title. Like, let's be honest. So anyways, it's interesting because when these guys recount what they use or whatever, they get asked decades later, and it's like, I can't even really remember every single cycle I did personally when I was in the midst of using this shit, and that was not that long ago. So for him to be asked, on the spot, what did you take 40 years ago or some shit? It's like, I don't know. Can you blame the guy at like 70 whatever years old for not knowing exactly what he took? Or is it him trying to mislead? Like, at the end of the day, I don't like put too much weight into what these guys say. I would, it would be great to believe that you only needed that much shit to achieve that physique. And if that was the truth, then that's like incredibly impressive. But it's incredibly impressive nonetheless, regardless of what he used, to be honest. So like, there's no one who's going to get Tom Platz legs, regardless if they're on grams of shit. So except, a minority of individuals, and those are the guys in the current day that are working hard and dieting their ass off and taking the gear. So, what is there to take away from that? I don't put too much stock into, what certain individuals are saying about their dosages. And it's just interesting because for a guy to have literally been the forefront transparency driver in some of these interviews and like sit there and listen to these guys talk about what it takes to be an Olympia caliber pro, to then like, minimize its impact to such a dramatic extent and also claim using like 100 milligram shot of Deca once a week, it's like, it's just kind of mind-boggling to me. So I'm skeptical, to say the least. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. All the comments help the algorithm. They're much appreciated. Like, subscribe, check out my blog, moreplates.com. Follow me on Instagram at moreplates, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, TikTok, Apple Podcasts. If you want to support the channel, you can check out anything I'm associated with in the video description below. Also, subscribe to the channel, please. I think there's some ratio bar in the Creator Studio backend that shows how many people who watch the video are subscribed versus not subscribed, and it's like, it doesn't actually push the video to new subscribers unless people are telling YouTube this is a video they liked by liking the video and subscribing, as far as I know. Like, engagement metrics are kind of what drive the engine here. So, like, if you guys like this video, you want to see more stuff like it, drop a sub. It's appreciated. And also it tells YouTube, like, hey, this is a channel worth, pushing to new people. So I would love to get that ratio up to, like, I don't know. I don't even know what's a good ratio, but either way, 50-50 seems kind of low. So I would love to get that up. So please subscribe. And if you want to support me, anything in the video description helps. And if you're going to be using gear, highly recommend you get high quality diagnostics like blood work and a medical professional on your side who oversees your health to make sure you minimize the fucking yourself up that occurs during this process, because it's absolutely a dangerous game, and there are ways to go about it in a way that significantly attenuates the risk burden, but it's kind of sketchy doing this flying blind or using, your gym bro who isn't necessarily credentialed to oversee your stuff or oversee your diagnostics and interpret them correctly. So I would absolutely recommend for anybody who is serious about bodybuilding and is pursuing it regardless to check out Merrick Health. It's in the video description below. It's my preventative medicine platform. And for guys who are natural too, I cannot overstate the importance of having a baseline blood panel. So absolutely recommend checking that out for anybody interested in pursuing bodybuilding outcomes or optimizing their health metrics. So you can check it out, and anything else in the video description that supports me, it's down there if you want to check out other stuff. And I will talk to you guys soon.